Hi, I'm Annie Stout.
And I'm Kevin LaDuke. And what is Max Loves Midland? That music means we finally made it. This is the first ever episode of the Max Loves Midland Show, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. My name is Kevin LaDuke, and I'm going to be your weekly tour guide here at Max Loves Midland. With me today is somebody that I couldn't imagine doing this without. For the first episode, this person has a really interesting relationship with Max. They're a local business owner, they are an artist, and I'm happy to say they are one of my friends. This is Annie Stout.
Hi.
Annie, thank you so much for being here today. I know we've been talking about this for a really long time. I think originally in 2022, we first met up, and I had vision for this show. Mm-hmm. And I really look forward to this day. So this first episode marks a huge banner moment in not only the Max lineage, but also in my life as well. And I think what's so poetic about it is that show just opened with this beautiful guitar riff. I think you know where that guitar riff came from, right?
I do, yes.
Where was that recorded at?
In my living room. That is my husband, Jared, rocking out to the Tridge song.
Absolutely. And when we had that very first meeting there in 2022, I brought lyrics to the Tridge song with me. The Tridge song, if you've never heard of it, I'm very surprised if you've never heard of it because it is a certified banger. And believe me, I know bangers. The Tridge song is an incredible song. It was originally sang by a group of Woodcrest Elementary fifth graders in preparation for the opening of the Tridge. So I have the lyrics in front of me. This is actual original lyric sheet that I brought to that original meeting. And I always said that this would be the theme song for the podcast or our show if we ever made one. Yeah. So I'm so excited to be here today on the first episode of our show, and the Tridge song is what opened it. Really neat here. It says to Carl Grostacker, which was obviously a very important figure in getting the Tridge first started. So that's really exciting to be able to launch it with the Tridge song. Did a lot of work go into that?
It was actually pretty straightforward, which was cool. You and I had a short discussion. You had the idea to make it like a punk rock version. So when I first asked my husband, he was like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, what is the Tridge song? So I pulled up the YouTube video of the kids, singing at the, was it the rededication, I think?
Yeah, so the Tridge was rededicated in 2018. Yep. At the time, I worked for the city of Midland. I was with MCTV. So I was there recording that rededication, and I've always had this strange fascination with that portion of that program for whatever reason that day, because I just thought it was so neat that there was a song to represent the opening of the Tridge that now has been sang at least a couple times that we know of. Once when the Tridge first was opened, and we had a bunch of people there with Tridge Troll shirts on, and the Tridge Troll is an iconic piece of Tridge lore. And then it was sang again in 2018 at the Tridge rededication. But now we are bringing it back every single week here on Max Loves Midland. We'd love to bring you the hits. So here at the Max Loves Midland Show, we're going to open every single one of our episodes with that Tridge song. And I think the Tridge is an extremely innovative idea. Obviously, it's a bridge that connects three important landmasses in our town. And I don't think you're wearing the correct shirt for it today, but I brought a button because of all of your work with Max Loves Midland. I think you are a certified bridge builder. So this certificate right here, this came from the original Tridge opening, or Tridge banner, I should say. And it says, I am a bridge builder, and then it says Tridge on it. So awesome. as our bridge builder here at Max, you are consistently building bridges between people in the community, and that's what Max is all about. So as a bridge builder, I wanted to bring that for you here today.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Now, you are heavily involved with Max Loves Midland, and before we get to the Max Loves Midland 101 and what Max Loves Midland is going to be all about, I want to talk a little bit about your day-to-day work. You're a business owner, Paper Heart something. I don't know if you could refresh my memory on what it is that you do.
Yeah, I'm the founder and creative director of Paper Heart Design Co., and my office is actually right upstairs in the Ashman Plaza. We do graphic design and communications work for nonprofits, small businesses, and creative entrepreneurs. So logo design is kind of our bread and butter, but over the past few years, I've been diving more and more into the communication space. Do a lot of work with the Midland Area Community Foundation, obviously, and now Max Loves Midland. But really, the main goal at Paper Heart Design is to help people tell their stories. So sometimes it's through visual things, sometimes it's through words, but we do a wide variety of things for a wide variety of people, and I love getting to work with so many different people in the community.
I'm looking forward to the audience getting to know you on your own, but I just want to provide a little testimonial here. Annie does a ton of work for us at the Midland Area Community Foundation. Day to day, I work as the communications officer over there, and I really could not do my job without Annie. She's an incredibly valuable contractor to us. You do so much for us, and people probably see your art everywhere. They see your posts everywhere. They see your words everywhere. And you've really made an impact on this community. And you mentioned that we're here at the Ashman Plaza. We are recording this show today at JNC Media, which we're extremely excited to do. And what always strikes me about the Ashman Plaza, it's really a family environment here. Max Loves Midland is all about bringing people together, but truly that's been going on here at the Ashman Plaza for a long, long time. So how did you get to this space, and how did your business evolve?
Sure. So I founded my business in 2008 when I moved to Elizabethtown, Kentucky, mainly because I just couldn't find a job and I needed to do something. I went to CMU and studied graphic design and sculpture and art history, and I also got an art education degree at the same time. So I was very frustrated when we moved out of state. I went from working 20 to 30 hours a week in the Mount Pleasant Sam Goody and 15 to 18 credit hours a semester to nothing. And it was a very hard transition for me. Like, I really like being involved in things, and I like to make things, and I need to be busy, or I just kind of get down in the dumps. So I moved to a new state where I didn't know anybody, and my husband was working 40, 50 hours a week, and I was just kind of sitting in our little duplex going crazy. So I thought, well, there's this new thing I heard of called Etsy, so let's see what we can do with that. I had just designed our own wedding invitations when we had gotten married in 2006. So I started Paper Heart Design with custom wedding invitations and stationery on Etsy. And that evolved in a lot of different ways over the years. But I first got involved with the Ashman Plaza in 2016. A friend of mine made a post on Facebook asking if anyone was looking for a creative way to get out of the house. And I was a stay-at-home mom to two girls at that time and was like, yeah, I would love to do something creative and get out of the house. So it was actually teaching painting classes at Captured Community, which is now Parker Lane Art and Design Studio. So this was before Live Oak existed. So I applied and got called in for an interview. And in the interview, I met Renee Decro and Daisha Parker. And I was hired to teach the painting classes, and also because I had a graphic design degree, and they were working on rebranding Captured Photography and Captured Studios. And there used to be like a dance studio upstairs here too. Yeah. So everything had kind of the Captured moniker, and they were working on the rebrand, but not quite done, and asked if I could help with that. So that was a really cool project to kind of get synced up to everybody. And then Renee Decro invited me to join Brave, which is a support group for creative entrepreneurs. And I kept turning her down because my daughter was like 2.5, 3 at the time. But she eventually convinced me to just bring her. So once a month I'd come with my daughter, and she'd have her iPad and a baggie full of snacks, and I would get to connect with these other women entrepreneurs. And that group really made it feel possible. Like, oh, I could actually run my own business and have it be like a full-time gig. So when my girls were almost old enough to go back to school, I sat down with Jared and I said, I'd really like a chance to give this a go and to make it a legit, like, full-time design studio. And he was all for it. So I got connected to a lot of other small business owners through Brave, and things just slowly have been building. And then in October of 23, an office became available upstairs, which is actually where JC Media was before they were in this space downstairs. So that was kind of cool. They came down, I filled in. And I've been loving being in the building because it's so much easier for me to meet with clients. And I'm growing a team now. I've got 2 awesome women working for me. And we're working on continuing to get to where we can keep expanding. But I love all the work I get to do with the foundation and with Max because, when I was in school for graphic design, I kind of felt like oh, I'm just going to be selling things to people. And I didn't feel really great about that. And like, we do need that kind of design work, obviously, but to be making things for a living that are also like connecting to people to what they need and promoting ways to get involved and positive things for our community just feels really good, as opposed to like hawking stuff, you know?
Absolutely, and that's really what this is all about too. It's very poetic that your office is now here in the Ashman Plaza. Was captured here prior to Live Oak opening?
Yes.
So it all came full circle then.
Yeah.
You were teaching classes here, and now you have your own space here.
Yep.
Which is just unbelievable. I think that is really at the spirit of a lot of the work that we're doing about bringing people together, and that was happening really naturally here at this location.
Yeah, Renee and Daisha together have done an amazing job. Renee refers to the building as just a container, you know, for all these little mini communities that kind of convene here, and it's just a thrill to be a part of it. You know, after I was always welcomed here, but I love having my own little spot. And Renee and Daisha and I also collaborate on a lot of the communications work we do through Paper Heart Design with the Ashman Collective is kind of what we call ourselves. So our team, plus a few other people, were part of the brand development team for Max Loves Midland, which was cool. So I have a question for you though. Yeah. So why do you think now was the right time? Like, I know the work before Max Loves Midland was Max Loves Midland. It's been happening for years, but why was 2022 the right time to bring it to the public, make it forward?
Absolutely. This initiative is so important to our community, but also to me as an individual as well. Folks really went above and beyond to start looking at ways to come together 10 plus years ago. Communities can have community leaders. You can have folks that are leadership at the city, folks that are leadership at the county. You can have philanthropic leaders. You can have folks just making change in the community. But all of that happens in silos where folks are really working on community change within their own organizations. So we had a group of leaders come together and say, what can we do together to address complex community needs, but also just to understand complex community needs? When we're looking out for our own organizations, quite often we are making decisions that are going to further our organization, which does help the community, but we're not making those in sync with other community organizations that can all look at ways to say, I can address this challenge this way, or I can address this challenge that way. So our community leaders went and they shadowed a community in Columbus, Indiana, who had a very, very successful community success panel structure, which is the idea of community leaders coming together regularly to address these challenges. That group met regularly for years until they decided that they wanted to go a more academic route with this and really look at scorecarding the progress. So that's when folks became involved with the Communities of Excellence process. Communities of Excellence is a way to look at your community and really reevaluate how you are looking at metrics and how you can make a difference in the community. So we have outline challenges and advantages here in our community, and our community leaders were really looking at ways to address those specific challenges that were outlined, but something was missing. And that something piece is when you're making decisions for a community, folks need to be involved. And something that really stuck with me as I was brought into this work as a communicator at the Midland Area Community Foundation was I was told by Bob Pliszka, who's a communicator at Dow. Bob had been a part of this work for years, and Bob said to me, Kevin, when we're working on this work, this table has to be large enough for 80,000 plus. It can't feel inauthentic, and it can't feel unapproachable. We're inviting folks into this work to say, you are a part of this community. Where do you see yourself in it? And I think you just told a very powerful story about your business and you personally, but that is where you see yourself in this work. And I have long seen myself in this work as well. But putting your arms around 80,000 plus, it's no small task. So bringing people in a different way, we knew that it had to happen, but we didn't know exactly what the mechanism would be. We have this amazing vision statement for our community, which I think is the story of Midland, in my opinion. That vision statement is Midland, an inclusive community, together forward bold, an exceptional place where everyone thrives. You may have heard that in the community. You may have heard it when the mayor speaks. Mayor Maureen Donker likes to throw that out there. It's a very important vision statement for our community, and I try and bake it into my communications as well. But that is the story. We have so many amazing people coming together looking at accomplishing the vision of being an inclusive community where everyone thrives. That is a vision for a community, and folks don't always come together in that type of concerted effort, and that really resonated with me when I was looked at to say, can you bring 80,000 plus into this work? I knew that we couldn't name the initiative Communities of Excellence Midland.
Right.
I knew that would be unapproachable. I knew that we couldn't lead with, hey, here's all our problems, come help us solve it. But what we could do is leading with finding ways for folks to connect with one another, which is the fabric of a community. So we went events first. For a long time, folks had been approaching me and saying, Kevin, we need a community calendar. I knew that wasn't the Community Foundation's job.
Sure.
But once we became involved in this nice collective initiative with all of these different organizations at the table, I said, we can't not lead with this. If the only thing someone does because of Max Loves Midland is share space with one other community member, that is a success for Max Loves Midland because that draws people closer to their community. And we know folks are happier and healthier when they care about where they live. So we're really excited to launch with the calendar and refresh my memory. It's been launched for over 2 years. Is it over 1,500 individual events have been posted now?
Yeah, back in February, it was over 1,500 events. So it's got to be, and people, are definitely using it more now than they were a year ago. So it's probably over 2,000 now, I would guess.
And the work that's been done on that community calendar has been awesome. And for folks that haven't been involved with utilizing the community calendar, you can break that down into locations within our county. You can break that down into specific focus areas. You can break that down into type of events. And that is a lot due to the work that you do as the web admin for Max Loves Midland. And we just have an incredible tool now that's being utilized across the community. And that's really the goal of this work. So we're looking forward to continue looking at that vision statement, and then also our 4 focus areas of developing our talent, which really focuses on education, building our community, which focuses on business development, caring for our people, which we're looking at health and human services, and enriching our community when we're talking about arts and culture. So those are the 4 real focus areas underneath that vision statement. And we believe that by focusing on these broad areas of the community, we can truly make a difference by moving the needle in these spaces. And as long as the heart of our work is always aligned with that vision statement, can't go wrong. And those events were so successful that we knew that we had to expand upon it a little bit more. And the next thing was showing folks who their community is. And the only way to do that is connecting, storytelling, featuring. We want folks to see themselves in the work. So they won't see themselves in the work unless we pull folks to be a part of the show. So we're very excited to storytell about folks in Midland, interesting people doing things, business owners, folks involved with these focus areas, folks involved with Max, folks that have been here forever, folks that just moved here, whatever it is. This is truly about people development and retention, and we're doing that through connection. And Max is a very interesting piece on its own, and I think that a common question we get asked all the time is, well, who is Max? Like, what is Max? Who is Max? What is this concept of Max? And sometimes it's you behind a keyboard, sometimes me behind a keyboard, but truly, Max is meant to go a little bit deeper than that. So if you'd like to talk a little bit about the way that we came up with this character, this idea.
Yeah, I do want to say, too, I remember when you approached me about helping with this, saying building a table big enough for 80,000 people, that's what got me like immediately excited about it, because it can't just be CEOs in a room. It's got to be everybody.
Absolutely. And that also means if we want the table to be big enough for 80,000 people, that the show is going to go for like 1,300 years, because we have to have
everybody.
The show's not over until everybody is on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we first met, I think it was fall of 22, I want to say. So it was me and you and Daisha Parker, Renee Decro, Daniel Terhune, and Kathy Snyder. So that was kind of our brain trust of getting things started. I remember having a lot of discussions about, well, what are we going to call this? We want people to be able to connect with it. Like you said, it can't be Communities of Excellence, because that's so like academic and highbrow sounding.
Incredible program, but it's not going to resonate with the general public when we're talking about inviting them into this work. You have to invite them into this work in a really authentic and approachable way.
Right.
It can't be leading with academia. It's leading with the true core of this work, which is connection.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I remember we had a meeting scheduled, and we were all supposed to come back with ideas. And I remember I was falling asleep the night before, and I was thinking, I had all these things like We Love Midland, or I can't even remember what the other ones were. They all felt really generic still, but as I was falling asleep, I get a lot of my best ideas like right between asleep and awake.
Absolutely.
And I thought, oh, I know we need something that's first person. Like we need like an avatar or a character. So when I'm or you are replying to somebody online, we can use first person language. because it's really hard to connect with somebody if you're saying we all the time. And most of the initiatives that I help run social media for, I reply with we, and that's fine for those. But I felt like because connection is the number one priority for Max Loves Midland, we needed something that was approachable, and that someone felt like it was talking person to person rather than some other faceless organization. Not that that's bad in certain lights, but you know what I mean. So I remember pitching, I think I pitched Molly Loves Midland first, and someone reminded me that Molly is sometimes something else.
Yeah. We're not at a rave.
Exactly. So we had a quick brainstorm about other M names because I just think alliteration is fun and people remember things easier if alliteration is involved. So we settled on Max because it can be a man's name or a woman's name. It's not specific to any like generation or age group.
And you were watching a lot of Stranger Things at the time?
I was watching Stranger Things at the time. Yes, that is true.
So Max was fresh in your brain?
It was, yes. Absolutely.
I think the idea of Max is so awesome. And honestly, I never would have thought to have led with a mascot. It's just not an approach that I would have liked to have taken until Daniel, within one of those meetings, said, listen, here's the deal. If we want this to be approachable, we want this to be cool and resonate, let's take a different approach and let's have some fun with it. We can do it our way.
Yeah.
And the thing that stuck with me, and I've said this countless times in so many different presentations because it was so funny to me, and it was my convincing argument, was he said, when I take my kids to Chuck E. Cheese, I don't take them to the baby casino. We don't call it baby casino. That'd be weird.
Yeah.
We take them to Chuck E. Cheese.
But it is a baby casino.
But it is a baby casino.
Right.
So let's lead with a mascot. Let's lead with something faceless.
Mm-hmm.
Let's lead with something that anyone can see themselves in. We don't want it to be that it's faceless necessarily, but we want everyone to feel like they can be Max.
Right.
It doesn't matter gender. It doesn't matter your religion. It doesn't matter where you work. It doesn't matter any other orientation within your life. We are all bound upon this idea that we love Midland, and we are looking for you to see your work within Max. How do you fit into this category? How do you fit into these puzzles with us? And I just thought that was incredible. And since that, I said, that's awesome. Max can be a personality. Max can live in Ask Midland and answer some questions. Max can talk first person over social media. Max can have a cool avatar like these awesome sunglasses that you painted and put behind us. It's just an incredible brand, and we've had a lot of fun with it already. And I think that this storytelling initiative is just going to take Max to the next level, and folks are going to attend more events. They're going to know their community members better. They're going to get more involved, and they're going to understand where they fit into the puzzle of addressing our challenges and then also reinforcing our advantages here within the community. So we're super excited to work on this and really take this to the next level.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we've done a little bit of written storytelling, and it was very clear that people were interested in those and connecting with them. So it was nice to have that kind of intermediary step to say, hey, we really do need to get the show going and have more face-to-face with more people and continue to tell all those stories, because everybody here has a story.
Absolutely. Everyone has a story. And I think there are organizations doing some great work out there in our community that really are focusing on people development and people retention here. But there's not really one high-level organization that is putting an umbrella over all of this work and saying, we have to do this and we have to do this now, because if we don't, we're missing out. And I felt an almost calling to this work and almost a duty to bring skills to this space to continue to tell storytelling about our fellow community members. That's what makes this work so awesome, is when you look at talent development and retention, or people development and retention, however you'd like to say it, folks a lot of times are looking at the attraction piece of it. But if we are not telling the stories of the folks that are already here, how are we going to attract folks if they can't see themselves here? Or if folks are not saying, I love Midland because blank, whatever Midland is to you. If we don't have folks being honest about why they're here, we're never going to get other people to want to come, and we're never going to get people that want to come and engage in that work. So this is just as much, if not more, about retaining those that we have and attracting due to that retention.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that is the perfect way to put it. And I think that's a great explanation as to why we believe in this approach.
Absolutely. And, you know, moving forward on this approach, just personally, I think that it's so important to have this passion to connect one another. I grew up in an alternative living situation family, however you want to say it, and I was raised by an incredible community of folks. So as I grew up, I always said that I want to be involved in some work that helps raise a community because a community raised me. And it's so personal to me to look around and say, we're connecting with one another through this storytelling approach. We want folks to love where they live. When folks love where they live, they take care about they take care of the place that they live in. It's just personal science, and it's proven. And there's so many stats out there. There is study after study. When folks care about their community, they take care of it. They're happier. And we want to tell those uplifting, great stories of Midlanders that are doing amazing things, that love this place, and are looking to take Midland to the next level. So Max Loves Midland, we hope it lives in perpetuity. And as we have these weekly conversations, I just think it's great to invite folks into our land and say, we're in this together, all 80,000 plus of us.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, too, that neither of us are from Midland originally, but we're kind of leading this work. I love living here, and my parents are moving to Midland next year, and I'm really, really excited about that. And part of the reason I believe in this work and want to do this work is because when my kids grow up, I would love it if they wanted to stay here, and I'm sure they'll go away for a while at some point. But I think the idea of building a place where you want to be and want to have the other people who you care about be is it's really important.
At our last Max Loves Midland navigation team meeting, there was a statement that really stuck with me. And it was about how we can't try and be other communities. We can look at what other people are doing. We can take inspiration from them. But copying them isn't going to work. We have to do what works for us.
Yeah.
We might not be other communities, but we can be the best Midland that we can possibly be. And that's amazing. I think that there's a lot of power in that statement of saying that we get to trailblaze this, and we get to do this the way that we want to do this, and we get to authentically connect with other community members to accomplish this work. And that's why I believe that this work is possible, and that's why I believe that this work is a success. I'm from Beaverton, so a small town pretty close to here. I hear all the time in meetings, well, Midland's a small town, and I scoff at that. Midland was my big city.
Yeah, for
sure.
So
it was every weekend. My grandpa and I would pop over here, go catch a movie. I remember when the skate park opened in 1999. I was 8, 9 years old. I grabbed some rollerblades, went out there. We'd always visit the park by the Tridge. I'd come here to play basketball. At the time, Hang Time Sports was here. It was a destination community for me.
Absolutely.
And I think that gets missed sometimes is Midland is a hub, and Midland is a place where folks from Gleburn County come together, Clare County come together, Isabella County comes together, and then also it's an important community here in the Great Lakes Bay region. So we are pulling folks from all over the place as we are looking to reinforce the strength of our region. I just think it's an amazing place, and call it Midland, but I think it's anything but. It's in a perfect location to access what's up north. We have a lot of assets in terms of being able to access the big city down south. And I always joke that Midland is the northernmost suburb of Detroit. I think that
I like that.
I think we're located in a really interesting area within our state, and unless we're reinforcing how many assets we have here in the community, we need to celebrate it a little more. We're going to lose a little bit of that audience if we don't talk about it enough. So I'm extremely excited about this work, and also what invites people into this work. And I think what's been great since the beginning, and this is just the testament of having somebody of your caliber on board here, is our brand is incredible. So I love the colors in our logo. I love the branding guide that you put together. And as somebody who's an amateur designer within my work myself, I think it's absolutely amazing. So let's talk a little bit about that logo and why sunglasses? What was that?
Sure. I think the overall feeling of our group was that we wanted to do something a little bit retro. And I think maybe Stranger Things had a little bit of influence on that too, now that I think about it. But we didn't want to do something.
This podcast is not sponsored.
We wanted to do something that wasn't like super trendy or that would be out of style in a year. So we kind of leaned into that 70s styling, which is when the Tridge was rededicated also, right?
The Tridge dedication actually was in 1981 originally.
Oh, okay. So a little, but still kind of in that era. But the idea with the glasses, and I think it was Renee's idea to make them heart-shaped glasses. just to reemphasize the love again. But the idea was, perspective, right? Changing perspective, seeing things through somebody else's eyes. It's really easy when you're in your day-to-day life to get bogged down by things that are hard. You can kind of miss the beautiful things that are right all around you everywhere. So I think the sunglasses are kind of a nice reminder to just kind of, hey, notice things. Like take a beat, look around, try to notice what's good, what's happening. And it's kind of an iconic symbol that you don't really see it a lot. I can't think of another brand that has like a heart-shaped sunglass. I should have researched that before I said that, but
good. We don't have fact checkers here on the show. If anybody would like to be a fact checker for the show, you're welcome to come down anytime we record, and we can keep you on set, and we can give you a little buzzer. And each time something incorrect is said, just go ahead and hit the buzzer, and we'll retract. But because we don't have a fact checker, if you want to blow us up in the comments, we love engagement. So go ahead and blow us in the comments if we get anything factually incorrect. I love that inspiration behind the logo, and I think it does touch back to that love piece. Love was the word that came up more than any other word when we were workshopping the particular brand. And one of those questions I remember asking Renee was, when you see folks take photos on these murals that are outside of your beautiful building here on Ashman, how do you feel? And she's like, I love it. And I think all of us kept coming back to the term love when we were talking about the community and how we want people to feel. It had to be in the name. And it had to be in the logo. And I think love is just an incredible inspiration for the entire Max Loves Midland brand, because it really is an organization that's built out of love. And it's built out of love for community and love for one another and love connecting with people. So that love piece is heavy, but it is an important part of what we do here at Max Loves Midland. And that's great inspiration for that particular piece of work. But your work that expands outside of Max Loves Midland, you are an artist, true artist. So this here painting behind us, this is just one piece that you'd see, and now people will see this publicly on every single one of these shows. But there's other work in the community that you've been a part of for a long time now, really, and your art is everywhere. So where does your inspiration come from?
That's a good question. I think it's interesting because I do so many different things, and I feel like I draw inspiration from different places for the different kinds of things. So like the Max works and the comms work, I think, like I said before, my family, and like my want for them to want this place to be a place that they want to stay, that comes from there. But art outside of that, I get a lot of inspiration from nature, pop culture. It's hard to deny with the Warhol inspired pop art piece with the sunglasses. But I love music. I'm borderline obsessed with music. I'm always really interested in like cycles and opposites and things like that. So a lot of my work has to do with that. But community is really at the core of that too. So what year was that? I think it was 2022. I got to build a sculpture called the Key House, which is at Creative 360. It was reset from the Bayless building to Jefferson, so it hasn't been totally reset now. But even just the concept for that was community. And people were invited to come hang a key on the house and be a part of that artwork, and it'll be evolving and changing over time with plants taking over it. But that whole thing is just a metaphor for belonging. And then I also got to paint a utility box as part of the Public Arts Midland Outside the Box project. That was also 2022. So I painted a giant Walkman, which is at the corner of Patrick and Waldo. So that was really fun too. But yeah, I've been involved with Public Arts Midland since I think 2018. And I have been part of the Art Scene Festival committee since 2021, I think was our first year. Yeah, we just had our fourth year. So 2021. And even though I'm not painting those murals, like where it's more about organizing and creating space for other muralists to come paint things, like still getting to be a part of that and building the community through public arts is just, it's a joyful experience to help with those things.
We're so fortunate to have so much public art here in Midland. And honestly, the Great Lakes Bay region as a whole right now is popping off with art everywhere. Bay City's doing incredible stuff.
Yeah.
That enormous mural that just got put up in Saginaw. Art is all around us. And they say if you love your community, fill it with public art. And that's not something I truly understood until I began interacting with Public Arts Midland a lot more, or until the Art Scene Festival became a consistent part of summers here in Midland. So I'm curious, what role do you believe public arts plays in a community?
It's really powerful. I feel like it's one of those things that if you're not paying attention to it, it just becomes part of the landscape, which is kind of cool. But being somebody who's actively working to bring more public art, it's transformative. It's taking an ordinary space and turning it into like a place, like a destination. Like, for example, Art Scene Festival just had a huge mural painted at Lee Bar and Grill out in Lee Township. And it's wild if you haven't seen it. It's an incredible mural. But the owner's already talking about, we're going to build a patio outside so people can eat outside and enjoy the mural, and they'll have music and things. And they may have already been planning that before. I'm not 100% sure. But it's really cool to see people interacting with public art and making them like destination places. And also with Art Scene Festival, we always have a community mural where people are invited to come paint a portion of the mural, which is really pretty unique because so many people are intimidated. Even the way we have it, it's basically a giant, paint by number. But even so, a lot of adults are like, oh no, I'm going to screw it up. I'm like, we got toddlers painting, just come paint, it'll be fine. But to be able to invite, like this past year on our community mural, we had at least 600 people come paint. And that'll be up on the side of Pizza Sam's by the end of June. And I think that's really cool and unique, especially for younger kids, like to be able to walk by and be like, oh, I painted that section. And it's been very cool to see like people getting senior pictures in front of some of these murals or even family photos and things like that. It's something you don't see as much in communities our size. So I really love that we have enough support to keep bringing these things and building on them, because I actually last year heard a story. Someone was going to go, I want to say to either Grand Rapids or Jackson. Do you know what story I'm talking about? Oh, okay. They were going to go away for the weekend to I think it was either Jackson because they have bright walls, or it was Grand Rapids. And I helped put together a public art scavenger hunt last year, and they saw it on Facebook and said, oh, there's 20 murals we can go see in Midland. We're just going to stay here and do this art tour instead of going out of town.
That's an amazing testimonial. Yeah. That personal public art piece is so cool. And it came out recently. I go to Loons games all the time. So I was over at Dow Diamond, and the painted bench project was cool. And I helped work on those community benches. But I didn't realize, is that your daughter's bench outside of Dow Diamond even? We are so surrounded by public art. That's amazing. So how does that make you feel when you see like your daughter's artwork in the community?
It's the best.
Do you think that helps her see herself here? Or?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, actually both of my daughters painted benches last year. So Madeline's is at Shop with Moxie on Jefferson, and Allison's is at the Loon Stadium. So that was a really cool project too. I think we ended up having like 16 or 18 benches, and they're kind of nicely widespread over the county too, which I like. But there was so many interesting stories, and we had several people who don't consider themselves to be artists who applied, and we had like a kind of a mentorship program to kind of help people feel empowered to be part of those projects, even if they don't consider themselves to be artists. So Public Arts Midland's working really hard to bring more people in and get more people involved, and hear those diverse voices and hear those diverse stories and help share. So it's awesome to be part of that.
And that art gets to be all around us, and that will live in perpetuity, which is just awesome. And I just think about how cool it is that, one of those murals that was worked on last year has our community vision statement on it, right in the back lot of Witchcraft. So I want to give a little love to Selena on her work on that one. But rooting ourselves in that vision statement at all times. And then this public artwork really services that vision statement as well. And that is the story. We have a lot of people coming together to make a difference in so many different spaces within our community. And us having the ability to uplift that and talk about that through Max Loves Midland is truly a gift. But I'm sure that it wasn't always this way for you. Did you always want to be an artist? What did you want to do growing up?
Yeah, I always wanted to be an artist.
Like you knew immediately?
Always.
Okay. I always knew I wanted to host the Max Loves Midland Show. So
Perfect.
There you go.
Well, living the dream. Yeah, I was always drawing when I was a kid. I was actually always making brands, which I didn't realize until I was older. But like I would make up a restaurant and I would draw a logo and a menu and then make the dinner for my family and like the whole thing. It's a little weird thinking back that I was doing that sort of stuff. But my whole family went out west on a huge vacation when I was like 5 years old. And I don't have a lot of memories from that trip, but I do remember my mom's best friend is a professional artist in Colorado, and her name's Peg Hilliard. And I've always really looked up to her. But when we visited in Colorado, we went to an ice cream shop, and she had painted a mural inside of the ice cream shop. And it was awesome. It was like monkeys on a beach eating ice cream. And I think there was some Gilligan's Island themed stuff in the back too. But I remember, being 5 and eating my ice cream and going, this is her job. She gets to make things for money. Like, that's pretty cool. And I never forgot that. So anytime they make you fill out the yearly, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was always artist, photojournalist. I think there was one year I said I wanted to be a professional soccer player, but other than that, it was always, some sort of art thing. And like my mom took me to an entrepreneur class when I was 10 years old because I asked her to take me. And like, that's kind of a weird thing for a 10-year-old to want to do too.
Totally normal. Normal.
I was the only child in the class. Like it was a bunch of adults and then me and my mom. So I think I just hit the parent jackpot too. Like they were always down for all my kind of quirky things that I wanted to do. And like that entrepreneur class that I took through our public library, which I have so much love for public libraries, and Midland has an amazing public library.
Yes, we do.
We really do.
It's an art piece itself.
It totally is. Absolutely. But yeah, it ended with like a craft show. So you had to like develop a product and then make it, and then they talked about pricing and that sort of thing. So that was kind of my first small business, really. But it was like a one weekend bazaar. I think I sold Christmas themed bookmarks and candy canes that I made into reindeer with pipe cleaners and googly eyes and little red pom-pom noses.
So along that journey, you worked at some other places, and we joked a little bit about your time at Sam Goody and also Media Replay. So your dream was not to be a Sam Goody manager then?
Well, no. Nights and weekends were never my dream. I did love working there though. Yeah, so I was at Media Play in Sterling Heights when I was in high school for about 2.5 years. And then I didn't work my freshman year of college, but then I got a job at the Sam Goody in Mount Pleasant. I was the part-time assistant manager there. It was a great place to work. And I remember in my interview for Media Play when I was in high school, they were like, well, why do you want to work here? And I was like, I spend all my money here anyway. I might as well be here and get a little discount. But yeah, I spent a lot of my paychecks back into the store.
That's pretty cool. And as much as you and I are friends, we didn't really talk a lot about your time that working in Sam Goody and why would we? We're working on projects now, right. But it was kind of fun to take that walk through the past. So we came up with a fun little exercise. And we have not looked at each other's work yet. Yep. And I challenged Annie today that we would do a draft of 5 music albums because I know your love of music and I still see you with your Walkman, so I know you're still listening to these albums.
Yep.
I challenge you to bring a list of albums here and we would do a draft back and forth, 5 picks each. As the guest, you get the first pick. So I think it's going to be kind of funny to see where we landed at here. So.
All right. So this is top 5 albums from 2000 to 2006. And for me, these were my top 5 when I was that age. So these are not necessarily my top 5 from that era now. Are we going 5 to 1?
Your first pick first, so I don't
top
steal
pick?
it. Yeah, I want your top pick first. Like true,
favorite album.
I think like a professional sports draft.
Okay. It's got to be Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park.
Oh. Okay, Hybrid Theory definitely has a place. I just think it's funny. Almost every genre of music has its own Hybrid Theory. Hybrid Theory is its own space. So you loved it then, you said? Like,
yeah. Yeah, okay. I remember the first time I heard the album.
Okay.
It was my first period drafting class in, what year was that? 2000. So I would have been in 10th or 11th grade. And I had a buddy that I always sat next to in drafting, and we would bring each other music to listen to. And he's like, you have to listen to this. And I remember it kicking on, and I was like, holy crap, this is so different than anything I've ever heard. I wore my CD out and had to buy a new one. That's how much I listened to that album. I knew every single word on every single track.
We listened to that album the entire way to Cedar Point one time in my dad's Jeep Cherokee, so I'll never forget. We'd press replay on that a couple times.
Nice.
And it's a classic. So this next album came out on a day that everyone remembers. So it's a little bit of a dichotomy here. This album came out on 9/11 specifically.
Okay.
That exact Tuesday. It is Jay-Z's The Blueprint.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going Jay-Z's The Blueprint number one. I also put Jay-Z in my bracket of number one rappers. So
Fair.
if we're looking at that genre, I think that's a huge moment in rap music.
For sure. That's a good pick.
Number two?
All right, my number two is Morning View by Incubus.
Great album. That was on my short list
Was
of
it?
backups. Morning View is an awesome album.
It's really good.
For number two for me, I went with, and again, this must be very New York influenced here. The Strokes, Is This It?
Oh, yeah. That's a really good album.
Talk about music coming out of Brooklyn at that time. It was just a real interesting time in music, and everything really shifted. That is a seminal indie album. So
Yeah.
I love that album.
I have that album, and I listen to it a lot, too. As I got older, though, I felt a little bit like... I think there was some beef between Jack White and... who's the singer for the Strokes again?
Oh, is that Julian Casablancas?
Yeah, Julian Casablancas. And then I kind of had this vibe that the Strokes were just kind of a ripoff of the White Stripes.
Oh. But
I do still love that album.
Not a huge hot take. We love good beef here on the show. My third pick, I went Daft Punk's Discovery.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think we just like kind of have different veins of music.
Absolutely.
So my number three is Elephant by the White Stripes.
Okay,
Speaking
well, that was
of
a little
Jack White.
foreshadowing there.
Yeah,
so.
speaking Jack White.
So you picked the perfect opportunity to go that. What do you have for number four?
Bleed American, Jimmy Eat World.
Bleed American was on my short list of backups as well.
I still listen to that top to bottom all the time.
Have you ever seen Jimmy Eat World live?
No.
I saw Jimmy Eat World a few years ago at St. Andrews Hall in Detroit.
Nice.
Amazing show. I have to be honest, like The Middle is obviously a great song, and that's on Bleed American, and Bleed American's a good album.
Yep.
But it was one of those albums a couple later that I got really into. It came out in like 2006, 2007.
Okay.
Futures.
Oh, okay.
Futures was my Jimmy Eat World album that I really loved. And
Nice.
of course, Pain was on the Tony Hawk video game, so
Yeah.
had to play that out a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't seen Jimmy Eat World in concert, but all the other ones I've said so far, I've seen. I saw Linkin Park 3 times. So that shows you how much I like Linkin Park when I was in high school.
Amazing. So for a fourth pick for me, I went with The Killers' Hot Fuss.
Oh, yeah. That's a great album.
I think Mr. Brightside's still on the charts in the UK. It's just...
That doesn't surprise me. Every sports event you go to,
absolutely,
you're hearing that song.
University of Michigan has taken that on, but
Nice.
Whole album front to back, just a great ride. So
Nice.
So what do you have to finish us off here?
I've got Weezer, the Green Album.
Okay. Is that your favorite Weezer album, or how did you? Is it Blue Album, or?
I think Pinkerton's actually probably the better album. I do love the Blue Album too, but the Green Album was just the one that fit in those dates.
Now for me, number 5, we didn't overlap at all.
Yeah.
We had some, I think, on our short list. We only talked about one album prior to this. But my number 5 is another New York album. It is Get Rich or Die Trying by 50 Cent.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I sold so many copies of that when I was working at those stores. That was a huge album.
Just enormous. And today, even, I put a Snapchat out to some of my friends of, hey, we're launching the Max Loves Midland Show today, and here's some albums I'm going to throw out there as top 5. And I think the one that was commentated on most was Get Rich or Die Trying by 50 Cent.
Yeah, my cousin, Leslie, who we lived in the same dorm room. Like we were like three doors down from each other, another band of the era. But she listened to that album all the time.
It's amazing. It's an amazing record, and I think it really transcended genre, and it went beyond normal audience. And I think albums like that are so important to moving music forward, and having all of us kind of enjoy that work together. I'd like to talk about some of your close misses here. One that we agreed on beforehand was Back to Black by Amy Winehouse. I love Amy Winehouse.
I do too.
Huge fan of Amy Winehouse.
She's amazing.
I had that pinged as 2007, so I did not want to add that, but it came out in late 2006, so it is eligible for this draft. Amazing album. Other glaring misses here that I'm almost disappointed in myself for. There's 2 Outkast misses here. Stankonia could have been on this list. Speakerbox and Love Below could have been on this list. A few other ones in there. Marshall Mathers LP by Eminem. It aged like warm milk, but that album is huge. I think all the music nerds are going to yell at us for not including Radiohead's Kid A. But it's okay. Other albums I had, Yeah, Yeah's Fever to Tell, Postal Service Give Up. Phoenix's album, Wolfgang Amadeus Phoenix, TV on the Radio, Return to Cookie Mountain. So there's a lot out here that we could have put in there. Any misses that you had a tough time?
I used to really love Dashboard Confessional, so The Places You Have Come to Fear the Most was on my near misses. Broken Boy Soldiers by the Raconteurs is still one of my favorite albums. I listen to it all the time. By the Way by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I listen to the heck out of that album too. And then Audio Slave. I I didn't listen to it a lot back then, but I listen to it a lot now. It's a really good album. And then The Return of Saturn by No Doubt.
Was there, and I'm not asking for hate, but was there an album that everyone would come in and buy and you'd be like, I just don't get it? Like, what is this and why?
Oh, gosh. I think the easy thing to say is anything by Nickelback, but that feels like pretty low-hanging fruit.
But you would sell a ton of those. I mean, obviously they're a huge international band. You would sell a lot of those copies.
I feel like Lit was really big, and I wasn't really into Lit. Yeah. Nickelback was really the only one that really irritated me, I think.
Well, I just think it's cool that your love for music has continued to expand, and every time I visit you at your office, it feels like there's some awesome music that's playing, and it's usually even before these times. A lot of great 90s stuff, and you and I have always bonded over that, and I just really enjoy the vibes of walking into your office and feeling those memories come back and really being greeted with that. I think that's an authentic part of you, and I think it's an authentic part of the human experience as well. And that, obviously music's made a huge impact on you, but as we're working on an initiative like Max Loves Midland, we're looking to make our own impact. I would just like to finish our show today just talking a little bit about where you've seen Max make a direct impact. And I know there's some very specific stories of you being the person behind the keyboard assisting others, and you don't need to give names out or anything like that, but just where have you seen Max's impact take place in the community?
Sure. Well, one thing that we haven't talked about is I've had a couple organizations tell me that they've had more people come to their events specifically because of the calendar, which is cool. But the kind of the two bigger things that happened through our socials were there was a young woman looking for a new career path. And she was asking, I want to get into a trade. Like, I'm tired of, working in restaurants or whatever it was, and I want a career. How do I get into the trades and what do I need to do? And a lot of people this was in Ask Midland. So a lot of people were commenting like welding or, HVAC, but not really giving any specific, like, well, how do you actually get into those fields? And I was able to comment as Max and suggest looking into the Midland Area Career and College Access Network, which is an amazing tool. But not everybody knows about it yet.
Right.
So she replied and said, "Oh, I didn't even know this existed. Thank you so much." And I know that the folks working over there are connected with all of the local colleges and all of the what's the right word? The opportunities for funding, and applying for your FAFSA and scholarships and that sort of thing.
Different avenues for post-secondary success.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So that was really cool. And then the other one was I did a recap post for one of our navigation team meetings that was about housing. Obviously, that's a huge issue here in Midland right now. We don't have enough affordable housing for how many people who are already living here, plus people who want to come here. So there was a lot of different things we talked about at that meeting. And so we did kind of the recap post about that. And the city of Midland was nice enough to share it. And in the comments there was a woman who was very kind of negative and angry. And the city had a great, kind reply. I think the woman said she felt like she didn't matter. And the reply was, "You do matter." And there was some other encouraging words, but I asked the person to send us a message on Facebook.
And the city supported that too, letting that person know they mattered. It was a really well handled piece.
It was. And I really didn't need to say anything.
Yeah.
Because the city, their social team did a great job handling it. But because it was a comment on something that we had shared originally, I just asked her to send me a message. And the conversation was, what do you need that you don't have access to? And she revealed that she was having some health problems and she's not old enough to qualify for senior services help. But that she was only getting like 1 or 2 hot meals a week because her physical disabilities were preventing her from going to the store. So she was having some major gaps in basic needs. So I was able to, talk to a couple different people and figure out where to connect her to. And the suggestion was CMH, which is interesting because I would not have thought to send someone with a physical disability to go to community mental health because of the name community mental health. I just wouldn't have thought that was the case. But the thought was if they get connected and qualify, they could qualify for an in-home aid that could help them with prepping and groceries and things like that through their insurance. So the last time I followed up with this person, they said they hadn't called yet. So it's hard. They had some other family emergency type things. So I am hoping that they will follow through and do that and get the help that they need. But I feel like that's all we can really do, right? We can present, here's what's available, but then it's still up to them to make sure that the final connections are made. But every day when I do my work for Max, if I have time left over in my chunk, I'll just hop on Ask Midland and search and see who's looking for help on things. And a lot of times it's just, hey, what's going on this weekend? Or what can I do with my kids this weekend? And I'll, give them the link or recommend some individual events or things like that. But I think the broader work that's been happening with Communities of Excellence for years is really wonderful. But I think that the opportunity for the one-to-one impact is big too. So
absolutely, and I think that's just a great way to finish off our first episode of the Max Loves Midland Show. But I have one more question for you, and this is a question I'm going to ask everyone on the show. Looking forward at Midland, what are your hopes and dreams for our community?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my gut has to be that our vision statement becomes a reality statement, right? Midland, an inclusive community.
Absolutely.
And an exceptional place where everyone thrives. That's a lofty goal, but there's a lot of people who are working really hard to make it a reality. So I think just keeping that as kind of our Northern Star in all the work that we're doing and continuing to, bring people to the table and keep working towards that would be my hope.
Awesome. Well, Annie, thank you for coming to the table today. Really appreciate having you on the show, and I know you're going to be along for the ride. Yeah. So the next time you're on, because there will be a next time as you are a part of this work consistently, the next time you're on, what we will do is we'll redo the draft, except we'll do it the years that I was working at Best Buy.
Perfect. Love it.
So we'll have some fun with that, and we'll open up a new era.
Sounds good.
So thank you so much for being with us
Thanks,
today.
Kevin.
And thank you for being with us today for our first ever episode of the Max Loves Midland Show. We'd love to invite you into this work. Please go to maxlovesmidland.com. Make sure you sign up for our email newsletter and tell us what you have going on as well. Here in Midland, when life gives you bridges and it doesn't do the job, we like to build tridges. So I want to know where you are building the tridges in your life. Thank you. Subscribe wherever you consume media. Max Loves Midland is your entertainment, resources, and collective improvement hub for Midland County. Plan your next adventure in Midland at maxlovesmidland.com.